We're on page 207, and we are continuing in the Hilchot of Borei Peri Ha'etz and Borei Peri Ha'adama. And when you say what bracha on what, so today, B'ez Hashem, we're going to be dealing with, or starting off with at least, about the halacha of soup. What's soup? Yeah. So what's soup? Yeah. Soup, you have water, and you have in there vegetables usually, right?
Or fruit. What about chicken?
You have chicken inside there, right? So it's water-based, and you have things inside of it. Let's take a look at two sources in Gemara Berachot that might be saying two things. Try to resolve them, and then see the way Chacham Ovadia would resolve them based on a different approach. So let's take a look. Gemara Berachot Lamed Tet Amud Aleph, source number 1, page 207 in the Tzurba. Amar Rav Papa. Pshituli, it's simple to me. Made the silka, the water of beets. He translated as that beets. Remember, Chacham Ovadia held that silka is translated as spinach. But fine, water from a vegetable is like the vegetable, kisilka, right? It has the same status as the vegetable itself. Made the same thing with a turnip, is also like a turnip. Made the kulu shalki, and all boiled vegetables, they are exactly like the vegetables. The water of the boiled vegetables is exactly like the boiled vegetables, which means that the water of the beets is the same bracha as the beets. So what bracha do you make on beets?
Adama.
So what?
Adama.
From this simple reading of the Gemara, water of the beets is also hadam. Okay. That would all be fine and dandy if we didn't have this other Gemara on Lamed Ches Amud Aleph that says, Amar Mar Bar Rav Ashi, Hi Duvsha, the Tmori, this honey that comes out of the dates, Mevarchen Alvaya, we say the bracha of Sha'akol Yem B'Dvarav. Date, juice is coming out of a date, right? The honey, and the Gemara says you make a shahako. My time, what's the reason? Zeya ba'almahu. It's just zeya. It's just moisture. It's just moisture. It's not the fruit. So it's very complicated, these two Gemaras, because the Gemara says that if you cook, right, a beet in water, the water gets the bracha of the beet because it's exactly like the beet. But juice that comes out of a fruit, that's a shahakol because it's just zeya. It's just moisture. So how do you understand these two Gemaras? Right? It's either what comes out of the fruit should also be the same bracha as the fruit, just like the water is the bracha of that. So it says the Rashba. Let's take a look at the Rashba, source number 3. It says it has to do of the derech of how it's eaten. Keeping the Rava Chilason, who alidei shlika, may shlika son kemoisa. Since the most way of their consumption of vegetables is through boiling them, therefore boiling water is like them. But that's not the same case by fruits. And the juice that comes out of them is not the regular way of eating it. So the Rashba gets into, is it the way you eat it or it's not the way you eat it? Since you boil vegetables as regular, that's the way you usually eat them. So the water gets the status of the same bracha as the vegetable. But fruits, you eat the fruit. You're not eating the juice of the fruit. Therefore, it gets a different. That's the Rashba. The Rosh, on the other hand, the Rosh says it has to do with the taste of the liquid. So the Rosh says that when you boil vegetables, the liquid gets the flavor of the vegetable. But a fruit is unlike its fruit juice. The liquid, v'shemashka ein lo tam haperi. That's the bold in the Rosh, and that's the story of the Rosh. The Rosh says the water of vegetables, when you boil them, it gets the flavor of the vegetable. But the juice that comes out of a fruit doesn't have the flavor of the fruit, which you might think doesn't make much sense, right? Because I would assume orange juice tastes like orange. right? But he says no. He says it's just zayah, it's just the moisture. He says, but if you cook the fruits, now the juice of the fruit will come out, and maybe now you'll say ha'etz. Right? That's the rush. So the rush says the juice that comes out of the fruit doesn't have the taste of the fruit, therefore it's shahakol. But if you cook it, maybe it will be ha'etz. And if you cook vegetables, the flavor does go into water, so it's it. So that's the Rush's understanding. The Rashba's understanding is that the derech achilatam, the way you eat them, usually you cook vegetables, therefore it begets a hadama just like the vegetable or the water. But fruits, the juice that comes out, that's not the way you usually eat them. You usually just eat the fruit. Therefore, the juice that comes out of them is going to be shehakol.
Vegetables without the vegetables, just the soup. Only nobody absorbed this flavor.
According to the Rashba, yes. According to the Rashba, yes. According to the Rosh, yes. Yeah. According to both of them, yeah. We'll see what we do. We'll see what we do. Chacham Ovadia is going to come with another Rishon, Rav Aaron Halevi, and he's going to say a little bit different. Let's just look through. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch. Let's take a look at Shulchan Aruch. Source number 5. Al Hamayim. Second. Al Hamayim shebishalu behem yirakos mevarach habracha atzma shevarach al yirakos atzman. So on the broth, the juice of cooked vegetables, you make the same bracha as you would make on the vegetables themselves. Even though they only have the flavor of the vegetable. So it seems to be Shulchan Aruch is agreeing with the Rashba, and he's saying that you make a bracha hadama on juice of a vegetable. Then the Shulchan Aruch in another place, right? So this was Reish Hey 205.2, right? And now in 202.10, Shulchan Aruch is a little bit different. He says, Peirot shesharshan abashlam b'mayim. If you took a fruit and you cooked it in water, so you did the same thing you did to the vegetable, but now you're doing it to the fruit. Aval pi shenichas tama peri b'mayim, even though it goes into the water, and in varachotam hamayim elu shahakol, you make a shahakol. So it's possible. He's talking like the Rashba. The Rashba said derech achilasa, right? The way that you usually do it. Usually you cook vegetables. Not everyone does. Cooking fruits, not everyone does it. So maybe that's why he's saying, that's why he says shahakol. For Harosh katav the afshar shem nichas tam pei b'mayim mevarach b'rei pri eitz. Then he brings the rush. The Shulchan brings the rush. He says maybe you should say eitz. Maybe you should say eitz on it because the fruit goes into it. But it seems to me that they from Pashut Shulchan Aruch is going like the Rashba that says the way you usually use it. Since you usually use vegetables by cooking them, so therefore their water gets a hadama. But you don't usually cook fruits. You usually don't cook fruits, so you don't make ha'etz on that water. Let's take a little further. So now, okay. So the Taz is looking up the Shulchan Aruch. Taz says, I don't understand. Why does the Shulchan Aruch say about vegetables it gets the bracha adam, and if it's cooking fruits, the water doesn't get ha'etz? Why is that? So he brings here, it's a dispute between the Rashba and the Rush. And the implication of Shulchan Aruch ruling is that the halacha is indeterminate and one should recite shahakol. We're not sure. It's a suffix. It's like the Rush. It's like the Rush will say shahakol. One must say that here we are discussing an item which is typically cooked or squeezed, in which case the Rashba agrees a person should recite the bracha according to the variety of the produce itself. Okay. So according to the Taz, the ruling concerning vegetable water refers to a vegetable as normally cooked in this manner. That's what the Rashba said. That the Shulchan Aruch primarily is in accordance with the Rashba. The Ran recites Tzurba in this case. And he rules that one recites shahakol in the case of a water boiled with fruit because that's not the derech that it's usually eating. Despite this, the Mishnah Berurah says as follows. Linya halacha pasku archainim l'chatchil yivarach shahakol u'v'diavad yivarach bari priya eitz yotza. So the Mishnah Berurah says you should make a shahakol. You should make a shahakol. Mishnah Berurah is going on both, whether it's vegetable or a fruit. And now we're going to take a look. I brought you here the Yalkut Yosef third Chelik and Brachos in the English edition. We're going to turn to page 76. Okay, going to turn to page 76. And on page 76, he brings about fruit soup. Fruit soup. So let's take a look. He says, we're only going to say it's the same thing if you have the liquid found in canned fruits, such as peaches and pineapples that are canned, right? And they have a liquid, it's a shahakol. Now, I'm going to take you to page 77, and the footnote on the left column over there, third paragraph, Sephardic Jews. You see that paragraph? Okay. As Sephardic Jews, we follow the cardinal principle of Safek Berachot Lahakel. Now, Rabbeinu Aharon HaLevi ruled, and this is what Chacham Ovadia is going with, this ruling of Rabbeinu Aharon HaLevi, that the blessing for any broth, the water of any fruit or vegetable, Isha Kol Niebedvaro. Not like the Rashba that says there Chilason, or the Rosh who says if the flavor is there or not, but rather straight down the line, if it is juice only it's going to be shahakol. He understood the Gemara to mean that if someone eats the cooked fruits and the broth, then the bracha on the fruit or vegetable covers the water. So the way he read it, go back to that original Gemara we had, right? The Gemara that said, Shitali made the silka kasilka, that the water of the beet is like the bracha of the beet. That's if you're eating the beet and the water of the beet. So then you say the bracha adam and it covers the water and the vegetable. That's the way Rabbeinu Aharon HaLevi learned this Gemara. And Maran the Shon Tzion in Hazon Ovadia explained that all the Maran rule in Shulchan Aruch, the one should say a bari pri adam on a vegetable juice, vegetable broth. We must take the opinion of Rabbeinu Aharon HaLevi into account, and we recite the blessing of Shakol Niyeh Bidvaro. We didn't hear him. Chamavadia heard him, and he says he's where we're going. I'm assuming he's a Rishon. But I don't know for sure. I would have to check up. I don't know if they have here in the back. Sometimes they have who the sources are. I'm not sure if they bring it here. But this is the way Chacham Ovadia in Hazon Ovadia says to learn and practice these halachot. So what we're learning now is as follows. We don't bring this in the Tzurba. That's why we're learning. That's why we always don't just learn one say if we learn two svarim, right? To make sure we come out with the right shot. So for us, the Faradim, Ufal Chacham Ovadia Psak, it's very simple. Very simple. If you are just having the juice, beet juice of where you cook the beets in the water, and now you took out the beets and you're only having the juice, so you make shahakol. Same thing, if I'm cooking the apple and then I remove the apple and I'm just having the juice that was the water that was cooked with the apple, I make a shahakol. But if I left the apple in there or I left the beet in there, then I make one bracha, either hadama on the beet or ha'etz, depending on two different dishes, right? Or ha'etz on the apple, and I don't have to make another bracha on the water. It's all one thing, and it will be the ikar v'tafel, right? You have the main thing, and you have the tafel, and both of them are support. Okay.
You have prepared a plate of
Sam prepared a plate
watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
He cut a plate, put it in front of everybody. Everybody ate till the last.
Last piece.
Only the water is left.
Now so you have watermelon juice.
No cooking about
watermelon juice.
Juice.
We're gonna get there.
Juice.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We said that the honey that came out of the dates, right? Cooked. Source number 2. We'll get to it. All right, now page 210. Okay, so we already saw this. Soup with vegetable pieces. So it says the Piskei Tshuvot, in Ba'am Oichel the Perot Ohirokos Asher Nadosh B'Mayim, the Kuli Amma Ein Tzarech Levar Klal Al Mei Abishul Asher Shoyz Leimohem. Everyone holds. You don't have to make another bracha if you're eating it with the vegetables. It's because the water is secondary, right? Ikar v'tavo to the fruit or to the vegetable. Even if it has other spices and a distinct flavor, you still don't make a bracha on that water because the bracha of the beet or the apple that you ate covers it. Okay. Now take a look in the Al Yosef English edition, page 127, halacha 2. 127, halacha 2.
Well, you skipped the number 9 here?
We're up to, no, I just read number 9. Before we move on to number 10, we're going to take a look at Yalkut Yosef, page 127, halacha 2. And look from the page 1 on 127 itself. Let's stop with it. Poskim are unanimous that once someone recites a blessing of Bari Pri Adama on the vegetables, that covers the broth as well. Indeed, this is the correct practice. Okay, so if I had a beet soup in front of me, and I made a hadama on the beet, finished the beet. Now I have the water. I just keep going. No bracha now on the water. The beet juice and the beet, all hadama, and this instant one bracha on the beet. Everything goes. All right. Now, here he talks about soup with croutons, noodles, or other grain-based food. Okay, so I have spaghetti soup. All right, a lot of times they put in the soup, they put noodle soup. What bracha do I make on that soup? Do I make 2 brachot, 1 bracha? How does it work? So it says here in the Piskei Tshuva, look in the bold part, and then we'll look at the Yalkut Yosef. He brings in source 10. Yesh mehem harba v'merek at kishmat hem roiv neged me'amerek v'oichon yachem v'arach bari me'amerek zanos bilvad. So if you have noodle soup and you have a lot of noodles, that there's more noodles than juice, he seems to be saying here in the Piskei Tshuva, then you make 1 bracha of bari minei mizanot, and it covers the water in that soup also. Again, ikr v'tam. Okay, here in the Yalkut Yosef in halacha 3 on that same page, we're talking about the no vegetables here. Actually, there's no vegetables here. Just noodle soup, noodles with water. Okay, take a look on halacha 3 over here in the Yalkut Yosef, page 127, English edition, brachot 3. The correct blessing for noodle soup is borei minei mizanot. Although, so he has a different, Piskei Tshuva says the noodle has to be more than the water. Although the volume of the broth is far more than that of the noodles. Meaning if there's more juice than the noodles, it's still borei minei mizanot, as long as there are enough noodles to call it noodle soup. This is the shame, right? It's the shame of something. You have this a lot in the halacha with min b'mino, min b'she'enu mino, right? How do you know if something is a min or not? Is it the same or not? So sometimes we say it goes by shame, what people call it. If people call it a different name, then it's not the same min. It seems to be, then he's saying that if people give it a shame noodle soup, the whole thing becomes a noodle soup. So I don't know. Some stores they sell noodle soup. They don't want to put more noodles. What's cheaper, noodles or water? I don't know. I would assume the noodles are more expensive, right? So you throw in more water. You put a handful of noodles. Noodle soup. Shame noodle soup. On the whole thing. Since noodles are made of grain, everything becomes mizonot. Okay. He says on the next page, in 128, in the Yalkut Yosef, likewise, it's a significant amount of soup nuts or croutons. What's soup nuts versus croutons? Same thing? This is two things. Or croutons are added to the soup. Its blessing is borei minei mizanot. No other bracha is necessary. The water is subordinate, double to the noodles. Okay, so you can have noodle soup and you're making borei minei mizanot on the soup. Yeah, okay. Okay, now, he brings here next in the, oh, wait, hold on a second. This is look at note 132. Halacha brura. This ruling is only if it's a significant amount of noodles or soup nuts added to the soup that it gets a shame. Let's say it's only a couple of noodles, only a couple of croutons. Then what happens? One must recite 1 blessing for the noodles and another blessing for the water. Very good, very good. So then, because it's not, so Simchamadi seems to go with the shame. If it's a name, it's crouton soup or noodle soup, nut noodle, whatever it is, then it's mizanot. Otherwise, it'll be mizanot and shehakol. Okay. What about page 211 on the bottom over here in the Tzurba? Powder-based soup. Powder-based soup. Okay. What is this called? Like consume? What's that thing that they put? Consomme? So what is it? Powder. You throw it into it, and you make it flavored now. So what bracha do you make on that soup now? So he says us here. Let's take a look. Take a look straight in the Yalkut Joseph, page 128. Source Nahacha 4 in the Yalkut Joseph. If someone makes soup by adding powdered soup stock to boiling water, the blessing is sha'akol baro, even if it becomes thick. This is because powdered soup consists of other ingredients besides powdered freeze-dried vegetables. So if you have a consommé of vegetable and you throw it in there, it won't become hadama. It's going to be a shahakol instead. Now, what happens? I think Pinchas talked about it. Let's say I have vegetables, meat. I have vegetables and meat in my soup. Now what happens? No, what do you do? You have meal mug. What do you do? Someone comes in and order from you vegetable meat soup. What do we do? Okay, so separate blessing necessary. Both ingredients are considered principal. So you would need separate brachot for the vegetable and for the meat if both of them are significant, a nicker, recognizable enough, that each one would need a separate brach.
Unless they just want the meat. The main part is the meat. The vegetables sometimes made to give the soup the flavor. So it could be that they're mainly for the meat. I mean, and then you didn't like the soup as such, you would say shakal on the soup. On the shahako, because the vegetable gives the flavor to the soup in some case.
So you're saying the vegetables are not ikar, they're not the main thing in there. They're just a few.
Sometimes not, it depends on the
There
soup.
are a few
of course.
green
What do you
peas.
call this dish? What do you call this dish? What's the name
right.
of this dish?
Chavadi goes with a name. So what are you calling that soup?
Like vegetable soup, mixed soup, like they put
No, if
in
it's
there to give the
vegetable, then
flavor,
you're gonna make
to
on the
give the
vegetable.
flavor to the water, huh? Like
If you're gonna
borscht
call
per
it
se. Let's say
vegetable soup,
borscht
you're
with
making
meat.
adama somewhere there, right? If the main thing is meat, then yeah, then you just make a shahakol, and then everything could be going under that. But if it's two of them sticking out, then you would make the bracha on two of them. Okay. Right. So what do people do? A lot of times when they get into such issues, we're not sure. Say on this, say on that, say on this, say on that. So you take out a piece of bread, right? You make your hamotzi. Now everything in the Suda falls under there. Okay, so that is regarding soups. Just tell you, here in the Yalkut Joseph, he makes a beautiful table in the back. I don't know if you ever had a chance to look at it. In the back on pages, brachot tables, the brachot tables, and on page 16, he goes through the whole thing here. Soup made from powder, shakol. Soup nuts, mizona. Soup nuts in a soup. Mizona, there are many, and the blessing covers the broth as well. Soup nuts in a soup. Mizona, there are only a few, and then you have to make a shakol on the water. Soup with crouton, soup with noodles, soup with barley, soup with vegetables, soup with different vegetables, soup with meat and vegetables. It's a beautiful, beautiful table over here that a person should always have at home. At home, when I do sometimes, from time to time on a Shabbat, I take out this book and I ask the kids questions for points or for candies, whatever. Who knows the bracha on this and this? If it's like that, and it keeps them interested and they want to learn. And this way, people are going to learn a little bit. But it's good to have this sefer, beautiful, beautiful sefer. Everything put
Which
out.
book is
ready.
that? The first, second, third?
The third one. The third
one. Okay.
The third one in brachot. So volume 6. Very, very, very good job over here. I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to learn. Okay. Now we're moving on to Pinchas's question over here. Pinchas said, I have the juice from the watermelon. Even better. I just squeezed the new orange juice. I have the juice. What bracha am I making on it? So let's take a look. So we saw the Gemara already way back when we started this year. The Gemara said, source number 2, date honey that comes out of the date. You make a shahakol. Why? Because zeh ba'almahu. Just the moisture, not the fruit. So comes over here the Bet Yosef that's not talking about a case of pure date honey. They're dealing with a case in which they added water to them. That case in the Gemara that says you make a shahakol is not that the honey came out of the dates. That they added water and therefore it became a shahakol. But if honey came out, then one should say Bari Priya Eitz. So he wants to give a different understanding to that Gemara. That the reason why the Gemara said the honey that came out of the date is shahakol because it somehow was mixed with water. But if it was just pure date honey, then it should be ha'etz. However, Tosfot does not go with that. Tosfot says, look at source 13. Any type, except for tirosh for yitzhar, right? So oil and wine. Like we said about gabe oil. So Tosfot says every fruit juice is shahakol. Every fruit juice is shahakol. Look at the Shulchan Aruch itself. So Rav Shakar writes in the Shulchan Aruch, Dvash Zov min Tamarim that comes out of Tamarim, out of dates. Mevarach alav shahakol. L'chein al mashkin yotzim mikol minei peiros chutz mezeisim v'anovim mevarach shahakol. Any fruit juice that comes out of a fruit is going to be shahakol. It's a big chiddush. Zonish argues, maybe you should say ha'etz on orange juice. Since one squeezes the entire orange into the cup, maybe it's considered like puree. And remember, the Rambam says that puree is the same bracha as the fruit, no matter how much puree it is. So why can't we consider orange juice to be like puree and should retain the bracha of ha'etz? Yes, for us, it's very pre-eitz. That was last week's year. So the Chazon Ish says, even the Ramah agrees to that Rambam. Everyone really agrees to that Rambam, right? They're just saying shahakol. Maybe it's like Rashi and Trumas Hadeshin, maybe. So they say shahakol, but really they hold. So maybe we should say the same thing. Plus, he says the Chazon Ish today, all the oranges that are grown. That are grown for orange juice are grown specifically for the juice. So that's the ikar of the fruits. So you should make a ha'etz on it. Look at the Chazon Ish. That concerning the squeezing, bless you. That concerning the squeezing of an orange, which is generally done by pouring the entire food into the cup, and only the residue remains. It stands the reason that it should have the status of padvila. This was the jam.
No, pavidla.
Pavidla. He has the D before the
pavidla.
Okay, padvidla.
No, pavidla.
Oh, pavila. Where they accept the ruling, is that a Bari Priya Eitz? It should still be subject to dispute. It's possible that no one argues the drawing. In the practice, he says it requires further study. Chazon Ish wants to say that fruit juice maybe should be ha'etz. All right, and we saw that Rosh. We saw the Rosh. The Rosh said that if the juice has the flavor of the fruit, maybe it should be ha'etz, right? Halach l'maisa, we do say that it is a shahakol. Pavidla. This is a good teacher. Okay. Look at source 16. He brings from Yisrael Pinchas Badner, Halachot Brachot. There's a difference upon opinion among the Rishonim regarding the juice from fruits which are grown mainly for juice, right? The Tropicana has fields and fields just for oranges to grow for orange juice. Most poskim rule that even the fruit is mainly grown for its juice, it still remains shahakol. Bidi avad, if someone did say Bari Priya Eitz, he picked up a cup of Tropicana orange juice or any orange juice that was made from orange juice, and he makes a eitz on it.
Okay.
Bidi avad, it works.
Even not b'diavad.
Bidi avad, it works. You shouldn't be saying it l'chatchila. You should say shahakol.
Why? It's grown only specifically.
Still, we hold that it's still going to be a shahakol. However, that's not the case for juices made from concentrate.
That's 100%.
It's not valid to say a ha'etz on that. Concentrate. So what's concentrate?
Powder. Or no, it's concentrated.
Yeah,
it's
powder.
Powder.
They dehydrate the fruit, right, to make it into a powder.
No,
And-
the juice. Dehydrate the juice. Make it powder. They take juice and take moisture out, and whatever left is powder. Then they preserve it. And then they want to make juice out of it, add water, and that's it. Becomes juice.
Right. Okay, let's take a look in the Yalkut Yosef. You have it open over there. Turn to page 71. 71. Halacha 48. Freshly squeezed juice. The correct blessings for freshly squeezed apple, orange juice, or any other fruit juice is shakol. That is the bracha. The one exception is grape juice. Grape juice gets the status of bore pri hagafen. Even if it's very common to juice the fruits, the blessing remains shakol yabed varo. If someone recited the blessing of the fruits and ha'etz, the blessing is considered valid based on the principle of savet barachot la'akel. Therefore, don't make another one. What you said was okay. No. Take a look at halacha 49. Turn the page. We're going to get to grape juice in a moment. I took the halachot and the Yalkut Yosef for grape juice. We'll see what we hold. That's the 49. The correct blessing for the thick, sweet liquid that sometimes oozes from dates is shahakol yavid varo. So you see that every time something that comes out of fruit, the fruit juices, is a shahakol yavid varo. Turn to page 75. Halacha 53. The correct blessing for coconut water is shahakol yavid varo. Okay, now we said about grape juice, right? So a lot of times we're a little confused which grape juice is mutar to say that you're supposed to say bore pri hagafen, and which grape juice is not bore pri hagafen. So turn in this Yalkut Yosef, turn to page 38, where he talks about the proper blessing for grape juice. Mitzanovim tirosh v'kosoi bore pri hagafen. The kosher l'chatchila, the kiddush v'lavdala, and it's kosher for kiddush and avdala. But afshahu miposter, even if it's pasteurized, dino kain. The halacha is as such that it is kosher for kiddush and avdala. Okay, so that's the first thing we have to look at. Now look at halacha 15 on page 39, right there. Halacha 15. Okay, if a preservative was added to grape juice and it caused it to congeal, so they took the grape juice and they made it into like a jelly. They caused it to thick, right? One must recite shakol yabed varo before partaking of it. And we don't know what bracha to make afterward. Therefore, you don't make any bracha afterward. If someone reconstitutes the congealed grape juice, so basically it's from concentrate. Whether it's concentrate or congealed, the same thing. The proper blessing before drinking it is shakol yabed varo. So if your grape juice says from concentrate, okay, then it gets the shakol yabed varo. If it's from grape juice that wasn't concentrated, that wasn't congealed, then it stays bore pri hagafen. Once it's congealed, it loses the status of wine, status of being hagafen, and is not restored to that status after adding water to the concentrate. Therefore, it becomes the shahakol. Now, how much has to be of juice? So many bottles of the wines, but it'll also apply to grape juice, on the market consist of less than 50% wine or grape juice, with the balance made of water, food coloring, flavorings, fragrances, and preservatives. This being the case, one must recite the blessing of shakol yabed varo when drinking them, and not bore pri hagafen. Such wine will not be used for kiddush. Such grape juice will not be used for kiddush because it's as 50% water. So it has to be 51% has to be either grape juice or it has to be either wine in order for it to be hagafen. That's the defining one.
51?
51%. 51. 51. A simple majority. Row. Simple row.
Back in the days, I heard in Gemara somewhere it said that you have to dilute before to give it to ani. So which it's also congealed wine that.
No, it wasn't congealed wine.
Well, it was thick wine that you have to.
It was no water added. It was just juice. It was just the wine. It was very strong.
But what do you have to dilute?
So you would dilute it with water once you take it out from there. But when you're ready to drink it, you would mix it with water. but it was just the wine.
So that was 1/3 wine and 2/3 water.
I don't know how they did it.
Shakol.
I don't know how they did it. Why it would still be a geffen by them? It's a good question.
It was diluted with water, and it was 2/3 water.
I would think it was so thick.
So he says, Maran then added that this formula is no longer true. It applied in the times of the Talmud when wine was much stronger.
Right.
That's why that configuration was at the time of the Talmud. One has moist grape dregs and he adds water to them. The resulting beverage is 25% more in volume than the added water that is considered wine. If the resulting beverage is less than that volume, is not considered wine. But he says this is not today. Therefore, even if Tolodam today is 20% more, the added water, the beverage is not considered wine.
So this light grape juice that they sell light one.
He says the source for this ruling between wine of the Talmudic area and that of our times is composed by the students of Rabbeinu Yonah. The discussion is about adding water to moist dregs, not cast light in the halacha for regular wine. Okay. The Ramah ruled that it's possible to dilute wine with water of 1/6. But we don't hold that. Guys. So what we say is 51%. You take a look at the tables in the back, Rabbi Gabriel. Go to grape juice. All right. And he's going to tell you over here, grape juice is only hagafen if it's at least 51% juice. It's shahakol if it's 51% water.
How do we know?
Very good. So if you take out any of these grape juices out here right now, so today at home, I took out a Kedem bottle and I took out the other nature owns that they give out. And they say the ingredients, it says grape juice and grape juice from concentrate. So it has both. So now the question is, does it have 51% of actual juice, freshly squeezed juice, without being concentrated? Okay. And if it doesn't have 51% juice, then we Sephardim should not be saying hagafen on that juice. Ashkenazim, it seems the Ramah holds the 1:6 ratio. That you can have 1/6 wine, the rest 6 and the 5/6 can be water.
2/3 I heard. That's one.
1/6, 2/3.
So this light grape juice that we buy in the store, light one.
Okay, let's read over here. I didn't read this part, but we'll read it together right now. So 1 second. Kedem, he writes over here on page 42. Kedem, a kasha Tzurba as a Kedem reported that their wines contain only 15% water. So they're talking about their wines over here. In light of this, when someone wishes to recite Kiddush on grape juice, he must be sure that the juice is worthy of Bar Piragafen. The label on the bottom will not reveal how much water has been added. Right. Even someone would call the winery and ask, this information will not be divulged. They won't tell you. Moran Shon Tzion was once invited to marry off a couple. And at the chuppah, he was given a bottle of wine with a kashrut certification of an Ashkenazi kashrut organization. He was told no other wine was available. So he went ahead, he made Kiddushin ceremony and said, Sha'akol yebed varo. Because the wine was maybe not, he felt that kashrut organization didn't do 51%. Afterward, Rav Yehuda Tzadka was invited to recite chuppah, and he also started the first bracha, the Sheva brachot. He started with Sha'akol yebed varo. Didn't say very free again. This incident caused a great commotion, but Chamavadia felt that it's important to demonstrate that these kosher organizations present their products as if they are kosher for all Jews, even though they are not kosher for Sephardic Jews. The leader of the organization said, "We're not responsible for Sephardic Jews." Yeah. Right? Today I was in a pizza shop, and the pizza shop said on the wall, "If you're eating our Parmesan cheese, you have to wait 6 hours." That's not our halacha. I don't care how hard our cheese is. We never have to wait 6 hours. That's not our halacha. And the Vad went ahead and put up the sign saying, if you're eating our Parmesan cheese, you have to wait 6 hours after. That's not our halacha. And for somebody didn't know that, he reads anything, he has to hold 6 hours. There's nothing wrong with holding 6 hours. You want to hold it as a chumrah, but it's not our din. You might want to say, Ashkenazic customers who eat Parmesan cheese, they would have to wait 6 hours. Right? This is a long-going issue. Ran Hashem and Tzion did not accept this argument, especially since there are many Ashkenazi poskim who rule that wine must be at least 51% wine. In short, one must ascertain that he uses wine is definitely wine. The same dinim that we spoke about wine applies to grape juice. It's the same thing. Has to be 51%. Has to be juice, real juice.
How do we measure it? How do we know?
The Eidah Charedit of Yerushalayim, they said they never add more than 49% of water to any of their wines. So we have to figure out now what we can do with our grape juice. I'm always hesitant every Shabbat morning when they give me here to make the kiddush. I'm hesitant to make hagafen on that grape juice because I'm not sure what it is. I once heard that Kedem is 51% real grape juice, but I guess we need to email them and see if they'll tell us how much of it is actual juice and how much is not.
So which one you talking about? The light one or regular one?
Any grape juice. Any grape juice. It has to be 51%.
No.
Juice.
It's a regular one. A light one is going to be mashkal b'chomer.
No,
So I think,
I thought light wine.
Tzurba, I think we have to figure it out before Shabbat comes. What we're going to be using to make a geffen on in the shul, right? We have to make sure that the grape juice has either 51% or the wine has to be 51% wine or 51% grape juice. It has to be real juice, not from concentrate or not water. Otherwise, we should not be making a hagafen on it. Make only a shahakol.
So you don't have to add three drops in the.
That's the 3 drops of water that we add. That's to take the din and make it berachmanis. That's a kabbalistic, right? So those people who don't do 3 drops, they pour the half a cup in there. It's definitely going to be a shahakol. You made your whole thing a shahakol. Okay, so we have to be more careful on this. I think this is something that we should definitely work on. But it's you see, when you learn halachot, you come to understanding maybe what I'm doing needs to be reevaluated. Maybe I need to come back to it. So as Hashem, by this Shabbat, we should have a better idea.
I can find out whether Kedem has. They won't tell you.
They won't tell you. But I've always been told that Kedem is reliable, that you can use Kedem to make a hagaf. Even Sfardim can use Kedem. I have to double check on it. But if not, we can buy one of the wines that they sell with the Sfardik hashgacha on it. Right? They have, I think, the Gabrielle wine. You ever saw it? It has like a little, the wooden, on the bottom, and it has the Sfardik hechsher from Eretz Yisrael. So those are definitely you can make a bar priya gafan.
No, you are avoiding the kiddush here, but what about each person in his own home?
That's what I'm saying.
What is going to do?
You have to buy the right wine. So we have to make a list of wines that we know, or grape juices that we know, that are 51%. The 51% the juice or the wine, and it's good. Malkiel, maybe you know someone who has a list. Maybe one of the rabbis in Queens who has a list of wines. Maybe Rabbi Moratov, maybe he has a list. I would assume he's the type of guy who probably has he's a rabbi that has a list of this type of things. He's very mindful of this type of things. If you know anybody who has such a list for grape juice and wines, that Svardim can definitely say agafen on. If you can share it with us, we would appreciate it. I'll also try to find out. All right, let's finish up our last topic for today. Last topic is the bracha of shahakol. Everyone's favorite bracha. I don't know the bracha shahakol. Okay, so let's go a little bit into shahakol over here. Shulchan Aruch says, "Al davar she'en gedulo min haaretz," something that doesn't grow from the ground. What are some things that don't grow from the ground? Going basar behema, meat. Meat is not from the ground. Chaya, the oaf, wild animals and poultry, dogim and fish and beitzim and eggs, and chalav and milk and vina and cheese. And that's one category of stuff that are shahakol, stuff that don't grow from the ground. And then there's another thing. Upacha apasha, that I think that's the way I'm reading it, that became stale. Food that used to be good and now it's starting to become stale. You can still eat it, but it's not so good. So these things also get a bracha of shahakol,
Mushroom.
and then salt and salt water and soup. Then he brings down, like you said, and pitriot, mushrooms and truffles. Why mushroom and truffles get shahakol? Shahakol.
Fungus.
Okay, what about fungus?
Not growing for it doesn't get nutrients from
Right, doesn't get the nutrients from the ground. It pulls its nutrients
from moisture.
from the air. It pulls its nutrients from the air. It's not from the ground. Mushrooms, and people make this mistake all the time. All the time.
Adama.
Because you think that where do you get mushrooms? You get it from the ground, right? Truffles, you get it from the ground. But it doesn't get its nutrients from the ground. So it's shahakol. Okay? The Pinini Halacha, so Ezra Lamed, he wants to say that there are two types of shahakol brachos. The first consists of foods that come from living beings, right? Meat, dairy, eggs, mushrooms, truffles, that they come from the air, right? These are, and fungi is a living thing also. That's one category of shahakol. Second category consists of foods that have been transformed to the point that they have lost their original bracha. Right? These are foods and stuff that start to sour. They also get shahakol. Okay, so very good. Take a look in the Alka Joseph English edition, page 110. We'll start with there. 110. And he says as follows. We'll start with grasshopper. He said locust. So halacha 8 on page 110, the Alka Joseph. Al chagovim, and on grasshoppers taharim that are tahar. So if you're eating grasshoppers, what bracha are you going to make? Shahakol. When's the last time you had a grasshopper? So he says over here. Say what? Shahakol. Yeah, it's like it'll be like a fish, a meat, right? Something that's shahakol. He says over here about this. I'm not sure. You think it has like a din like fish, like it's fire? I don't know.
Like flies, like a chicken.
He brings over here from Kaf Chaim Sofer that wrote that according to the custom today is to refrain from eating any type of grasshoppers, even though the ones we know that are kosher. He says if someone comes from a community that has a clear tradition of eating the grasshoppers, such as Yemenite Jews, he may rely on the tradition to eat them. Now, do our Yemenite brothers actually eat grasshoppers? Do we know if they eat them? I always feel these halachas, like you ever learn by Ashkenazim, like they're learning halacha, and then they say, oh, this halacha we don't do, the Sfardim do it. And I'm like, we don't do it either. Right? So I guess the Sfardim just say, hey, the Yemenites do it. I'm not entirely sure. Then we push it off onto someone else. But if we don't have any Yemenites here right now, but if
the ones that live in Yemen, maybe not the ones that in Israel and America.
Yeah, they're already modernized. Right. So I don't know. But technically, someone who had a Messiah and they've been eating grasshoppers all this time, they can consider eating grasshoppers. Certain grasshoppers are kosher. So if you ate a grasshopper, it is shahakol. All right. The next halacha I wanted to look at was 13. Grape leaves. Okay.
What about dough? You missed dough. Dough is raw dough.
Raw dough. The correct blessing for raw flour or bread dough is shahakol yevadvaro.
Even though it's mazanot, when you take it.
Raw. That's right, not the way you eat it, right?
What about the cookie dough?
The cookie dough, even if it's sweet, he says, even if it's sweetened. Raw flour or raw dough is shahakol yevadvaro. And afterwards, say boron nefashot rabo. Okay, what about this one? Grape leaves. Okay, so you're eating grape leaves. What's bracha on grape leaves? It's going to be shahakol yevadvaro. No, it's going to be shahakol yevadvaro. It's not the main part of it. Look at this one, 15 on page 114. Seaweed. They make it now seaweed snacks. All right, it's going to be shahakol. Since the plant absorbs all their nourishment from the water and not from the ground. So it has the same halachot like the mushroom and the truffle. It's not coming from the ground. It's coming from the water, right? And therefore, seaweed would be also shahakol. Okay, I think that's all of them that I wanted to take out. You have chewing gum? Okay, chewing gum. 17. Flavored chewing gum calls for the blessing of Shakol Yom Dvaro. One must not follow the opinion that some have said that no blessing at all is the reciting on chewing gum. We do not say that. You put chewing gum, you say Shahakol.
But you're
Some
not
people say
eating-
not to say
you're
bracha.
not eating it.
Still, you're getting the flavor from it.
Just no Borei Nefashot after it. That's it.
Just no Borei Nefashot?
Right. Candy and gum, we don't say Borei Nefashot.
Okay. Right. So he said no Borei Nefashot.
No,
What he said, yeah?
because it's small amount.
Okay. Fine. We'll end off over here for today. Oh, I'll just finish the next page on page 218 in the Tzurba. It says as follows: Kol davar shehu mesupak b'brichato. Anything that we don't know what the bracha is, yivarach shahakol. You say shahakol. Says when Shamura do the avad yotzev shahakol. Al kol davar v'chan kiva de mesupak k'di avad dami. Since we don't know, it's like a the avad, so you can say a shahakol. Interestingly enough, if you turn to page 125 in the Yalkut Yosef, he also talks about called davar shu mesupak b'brichato yivarach shahakol. Anything that you don't know what the bracha is, you say shahakol. And we call makam. And mudavar shiachal liftaro toich hasuda. If it's something that you can eat during a suda and be cover that bracha through a suda, adif yoter, it's better sheyaseh kan ma'aseh shevarach shahakol. It's better to take bread, make a hamotzi, than to say a shahakol on something that you don't know what the bracha is. Okay, that is the better course of action.
But I thought that if
Better to make hamotzi than to say shahakol. Right. So I say hamotzi, and now I'm going to have something that could be in a suda, and it'll be covered through my hamotzi.
so the main, if it's eight, right? I thought if it's something like leaf or something else, it becomes adama, not shakol.
You're saying by going back to the grape leaves.
Grape leaves, or let's say some other stuff, let's say cashews, right?
Right.
Why it used to be hadama, now it became maize because they grow it. That's what I think. I'm not sure.
He says over here regarding grape leaves, if someone has a vine, there's no question that its purpose is to produce grapes and not leaves. Like it's
But if in our custom to you, we use it all the time.
therefore so he says commercially sold grape leaves
Yeah,
are grown on vines specifically for this purpose.
right.
Therefore, the blessing for these leaves should be borei priyadama.
Okay.
Fine. So yeah, it seems to be saying that if you're buying those in the jars, right, that they sell, then you should make a borei priyadama on them. So if you have grape leaves from your house or someone's yard, then it'll be a shahad. Okay. Fine. Good. Very good. Bez Hashem, next week is the final week before Tisha B'Av, right? So next Sunday, Bez Hashem, we'll stop. We won't do brachot next week. We'll do Hilchot Tisha B'Av, is that Hashem, just so we should know a little bit of the Hilchot for Tisha B'Av. Okay. Shavua Tov l'kulam. Toda rabah.
Shabbat Tov. Thank you.